What deserves your life? At the center of Malthusian time stands one question that cannot be escaped. Not what do you want, not what do you enjoy, not what makes you productive, not what makes you visible, not what makes you feel briefly alive. The question is harsher, simpler, and far more difficult. What deserves your life? Everything else eventually bends before this question. Theories of attention, productivity, technology, capitalism, escapism, freedom, hierarchy, and discipline all lead toward it. If time is finite, if attention is the gate through which life is spent, if modern civilization is saturated with forces competing for consciousness, then one must eventually ask not merely how time is being used, but whether the object of that expenditure is worthy of the expenditure itself. This is where Malthusian time ceases being merely social criticism and becomes moral inquiry. The modern individual often avoids this level of seriousness because it feels too severe. He prefers softer questions. What makes me happy? What am I interested in? What feels authentic? What reduces stress? What improves performance? What helps me cope? These questions have their place, but none penetrates deeply enough. A man may be happy while wasting himself. He may feel authentic while obeying disordered appetites. He may reduce stress by avoiding duty. He may improve performance in pursuits that do not matter. He may cope successfully with a life that should not be tolerated in its current form. The deeper question remains: what deserves the expenditure of finite conscious existence? Every day answers this question, whether the individual answers it deliberately or not. A life is not defined chiefly by stated values, but by repeated allocation. Attention is the practical confession of importance. What receives the best hours, the most reliable energy, the deepest concern, the repeated sacrifice, the strongest loyalty, becomes the real center of one's existence. A man may sincerely believe that God, family, truth, craft, health, or wisdom matters most, yet if his daily attention belongs overwhelmingly to triviality, then his life has already testified against him. The calendar is a creed. The screen time report is a confession. The bank statement is a liturgy of desire. The habits of the body reveal the hierarchy of the soul. This is not said to condemn ordinary leisure or rest. A human being is not a machine, and any philosophy that treats every minute as raw material for maximum output becomes merely another form of slavery. Rest is good. Recreation is good. Beauty, play, conversation, laughter, meals, music, walking, friendship, and quiet pleasures belong to a sane human life. The issue is not whether finite life may contain delight. It must. The issue is whether delight remains rightly ordered or becomes sedation against the demands of meaning. Malthusian time sharpens the distinction between living and being consumed. Modern civilization contains innumerable mechanisms through which a person may be consumed without noticing. He may be consumed by outrage, consumed by comparison, consumed by entertainment, consumed by lust, consumed by resentment, consumed by ambition, consumed by fear, consumed by work, consumed by politics, consumed by self-improvement, consumed even by the endless analysis of his own consumption. The object changes, the structure remains. Finite life is being spent, often without solemn permission. This is why the question, what deserves your life, must be asked with more force than modern comfort usually allows. It is not a motivational slogan. It is an accusation against unconscious existence. A man has no guarantee of 80 years. Even if he receives them, these years do not arrive as 80 fully usable years of sovereign consciousness. Childhood passes before reflection matures. Sleep claims enormous portions. Work claims enormous portions. Illness may intrude. Aging narrows capacity. Obligations accumulate. Chance wounds. Grief interrupts. Energy declines. The actual territory available for deliberate, serious, conscious life is far smaller than the abstract number suggests. This makes waste more tragic. To lose an evening is not merely to lose an evening. It is to lose a portion of the only earthly life one is certain to possess. To surrender attention repeatedly to triviality is not merely to be distracted. It is to allow the structure of one's being to be shaped by what does not deserve the privilege. To spend years drifting is not merely inefficient, it is metaphysically dreadful. Modern culture resists such language because it has become allergic to seriousness. It prefers therapeutic vocabulary, managerial vocabulary, consumer vocabulary, political vocabulary. It speaks of well-being and efficiency and choice and expression, identity, empowerment, optimization, and lifestyle. These terms may have uses, but they often soften realities that ought to remain sharp. A wasted life is not merely suboptimal, it is tragic. That word must be recovered. Tragedy enters when a being capable of higher things gives itself to lower things until the higher capacity withers. A man made for truth becomes addicted to noise. A woman made for love becomes absorbed in envy. A mind capable of contemplation becomes incapable of reading. A body capable of strength becomes surrendered to comfort. A soul capable of worship becomes devoted to spectacle. This is not merely bad time management, it is the deformation of a person. Malthusian Time reveals this deformation with unusual clarity because modern abundance makes surrender easier than ever. One need not openly choose destruction, one may simply accept default settings. The default setting of the modern world is not wisdom. It is capture, it is interruption, it is stimulation, it is comparison, it is engagement, it is endless motion without final purpose. The individual who never asks what deserves his life will eventually have the answers supplied by systems that profit from his failure to ask. That answer will usually be whatever keeps you returning. The feed does not care whether you become wise. The platform does not care whether you become holy. The market does not care whether you love your children. The outrage machine does not care whether you possess peace. The algorithm does not care whether you die having lived well. It cares whether you return, react, click, watch, purchase, argue, desire, compare, and remain available. To expect institutions ordered around engagement to preserve the sanctity of your finite life is childish. They are not spiritual guardians. They are machines of capture, and they operate according to their nature. Therefore, the burden of judgment returns to the individual. What deserves your life? This question cannot be answered abstractly forever. Eventually, it must become particular. It must enter the morning. It must enter the phone. It must enter the workday. It must enter the body. It must enter friendships. It must enter prayer. It must enter marriage, family, money, reading, entertainment, politics, ambition, and rest. A person's answer must become visible in what he refuses as much as in what he pursues. The question also exposes the inadequacy of many modern ambitions. Fame does not automatically deserve a life. Wealth does not automatically deserve a life. Comfort does not automatically deserve a life. Sexual pleasure does not automatically deserve a life. Being constantly informed does not automatically deserve a life. Winning arguments online does not automatically deserve a life. Even productivity does not automatically deserve a life. All these may have subordinate places, but none can bear ultimate weight without deforming the person who enthrones it. The highest thing in a life determines the meaning of every lower thing. If comfort is highest, discipline becomes oppression. If status is highest, other people become mirrors. If pleasure is highest, sacrifice becomes stupidity. If productivity is highest, rest becomes guilt. If politics is highest, enemies become necessary for identity. If money is highest, everything becomes priced. If the self is highest, love becomes negotiation. If God is highest, every lower thing may finally find its rightful place. This is why hierarchy cannot remain merely philosophical. One must decide what is ultimate. Without an ultimate, life becomes a struggle among lesser gods, each demanding sacrifice without possessing authority to redeem that sacrifice. Malthusian time therefore leads naturally toward the language of worship, even when the discussion begins economically or technologically. Worship is not merely singing in a religious building. Worship is the highest direction of attention, devotion, sacrifice, and trust. Every life worships. The only question is whether the object is worthy. Modern man often imagines himself secular because he has rejected formal religion, yet his life remains filled with devotion. He kneels before status, productivity, ideology, desire, resentment, health, beauty, career, nation, revolution, comfort, authenticity, or personal freedom. He may not use liturgical language, but he gives offerings nonetheless. He offers time, he offers thought, he offers emotion, he offers obedience, he offers his body, he offers his future. He offers the only life he has. The question is whether the altar deserves the sacrifice. This is why triviality is not harmless when enthroned. A small pleasure in its proper place may be innocent. A small pleasure enthroned becomes tyranny. Entertainment as recreation may refresh the person. Entertainment as life purpose hollows him out. Money as tool may support duty. Money as God devours peace. Political concern may be legitimate. Political obsession may poison charity, judgment, and inward stability. The moral danger lies not merely in the thing itself, but in the rank assigned to it. What deserves your life is therefore inseparable from what place does this deserve. A serious human life is not a life in which everything pleasant is rejected. It is a life in which everything is placed. The higher rules the lower. The eternal judges the temporary. Duty governs appetite. Love orders sacrifice. Truth disciplines opinion. Wisdom restrains impulse. The body serves the soul rather than the soul serving the body. Under Malthusian time, such ordering becomes urgent because disorder is now industrially reinforced. The lower things are louder than the higher things. Appetite sends more notifications than wisdom. Outrage is more immediately stimulating than contemplation. Lust is easier than love. Scrolling is easier than reading. Cynicism is easier than gratitude. Noise is easier than prayer. The low does not need to be more truthful, it only needs to be more accessible. This is why recovery requires deliberate counteraction. A person must build a life in which the worthy is made near and the unworthy is made distant. Serious books must be nearer than feeds. Prayer must be nearer than noise. Good work must be nearer than distraction. Family must be nearer than strangers. The body must be trained away from ease. The mind must be trained away from constant novelty. The soul must be trained to recognize the difference between stimulation and significance. None of this can be accomplished by vague intention. It requires actual decisions, actual refusals, actual rituals, actual habits, actual repentance, actual reordering. The abstract admiration of wisdom does not produce wisdom. The abstract love of truth does not overcome habitual lying to oneself. The abstract desire for discipline does not defeat the repeated surrender of evenings. Reality changes through embodied allegiance. This is the hope of the matter. If life can be misspent, it can also be reallocated. If attention has been captured, it can also be reclaimed. If years have been surrendered to lesser things, the remaining years need not follow them into waste. Malthusian time can sound severe because it insists upon finitude, but finitude is not only a sentence of limitation, it is also what gives urgency, shape, and dignity to choice. A life without limit would make every decision infinitely postponable. Mortality makes love serious. Mortality makes courage meaningful. Mortality makes duty urgent. Mortality makes repentance necessary. Mortality makes attention sacred. The fact that life is finite does not make it meaningless. It makes meaning unavoidable. Because one cannot give oneself to everything, one must discover what is worthy enough to receive the gift. That is the deepest question modernity tries to bury under motion. It is the question beneath productivity, beneath politics, beneath entertainment, beneath exhaustion, beneath ambition, beneath anxiety, beneath the glow of the phone at midnight. What deserves your life? Answer falsely, and even success becomes loss. Answer truthfully, and even limitation becomes consecration.